Hello, boys and girls and babes. Welcome back to the Janaea Talks Caps podcast. As always, thank you all so much for tuning in today to spend some time with us and talk some hockey. And what an exciting week it's going to be, as it is finally here. This is finally the week that we are going to see actual hockey games being played once again. And of course, your Washington Capitals kick off their schedule with an exhibition game against the Carolina Hurricanes on Wednesday, July 29th. That will come to you at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. And we will get into a little bit of a preview of that matchup later on in today's show. But first, I want to take a dive into the larger picture for the Capitals as they exit training camp and Phase 3 and head to Hub City, Toronto to begin Phase 4, which is, of course, the postseason. Now, the first big news as we exit training camp is that the Caps have submitted their 31-man travel roster. So that is the 31 players who will actually travel to Toronto to compete in the postseason. So they have submitted that roster to the NHL, and there is some good news and some bad news. So I will start with the bad news. The bad news is that there is one notable name which you would expect to be on the roster, but which is not on the roster, and that is backup goaltender Ilya Samsonov. Now, if you haven't been paying attention, Samsonov had not been on the ice at all throughout Capitals training camp, and has now become clear as to why, as the Capitals have released the information that he was injured prior to the start of training camp, and that injury will cause him to miss the postseason. So he will stay behind in Washington to continue rehab on the injury, and the Capitals did state that they do expect him to be fully healthy again for the 2020-2021 season. So that's obviously not good news for the Caps. Obviously, Samsonov was not going to be the starter. That's still Braden Holtby's job. But he is a starter caliber backup who you'd have had in your back pocket to pull out just in case Holtby faltered at all. So now, obviously, they will not have that option. So it's all on Holtby's shoulders now. But to be honest, myself, I'm totally and completely comfortable with that, provided, of course, that he doesn't get injured too. Knock on wood. So the Caps will bring two other goalies into the bubble with them in Phoenix Copley and Vitek Vanacek. Now, Copley, as we know, was Holtby's backup last season, and he has proven himself a capable and reliable option at the NHL level. He had a lot of wins for the Caps last year, and he has quite a bit of experience at this point, and would likely be the first one to be called upon if Holtby were unable to play for some reason. Vanacek, who is just 24 years of age, he does not yet have any NHL game experience, but he is talented, so he's a good option as well. Still, it would have been nice to have the NHL starter caliber Samsonov warming the bench just in case anything happened to Holtby, but it was not to be. So anyways, I had told you that I had some good news for you as well, so here it is. Other than Samsonov, everyone on the Capitals roster is healthy, so that is excellent. They will bring to Toronto the same starting lineup that they had used in the regular season. So that's obviously, with Alex Ovechkin, Nicholas Backstrom, Evgeny Kuznetsov, TJ Oshie, Jakub Vrana, Tom Wilson, Lars Eller, Ilya Kovalchuk, Carl Hagelin, Nick Dowd, Garnet Hathaway, and Richard Panik up front. And John Carlson, Brendan Dillon, Dmitry Orlov, Michael Kempny, Nick Jensen, Radko Gudas, and Jonas Siegenthaler on the back end. They will also, for their extras, bring a combination of guys with NHL experience and some uber-talented rookies as well. So up front, they're bringing along familiar face Travis Boyd, who's obviously played quite a few games for the Caps. They're bringing former Pittsburgh Penguins forward and former Sidney Crosby linemate Daniel Sprong. More on him in just a little bit here. And then they're bringing along as well their first-round pick in 2019, who was one of the CHL's leading scorers this season. That's Connor McMichael. And as well, they're bringing along Brian Pinho, Beck Malenstein, and Philippe Millet. And on the back end, They're bringing along a very talented rookie in Martin Ferravari, who obviously played some games for the Caps already this season and looked very good in doing so. And as well, they're bringing along their first-round pick from 2018, another uber-talented rookie and a behemoth of a defenseman in Alex Alexeyev. And they're also bringing along Tyler Lewington, who's played quite a few games for the Caps before and has never looked out of place at all, in my opinion. So it's definitely nice to have another experienced option back there as well. There will also be at least one other experienced guy who's going to be sitting out of any given game on the back end for the Caps. As you probably noticed that after making the trade for Brendan Dillon before the trade deadline, they do now have 7 guys back there who would be considered regulars, with only 6 spots to go around. So Todd Reardon, he doesn't like to do the whole 7 defenseman thing, and neither do I, for the record. I think that it screws up their flow during the game. But yeah, Reardon, he likes to go with the traditional 12 forwards and 6 defensemen in each game. So to me, right now, the top 4 looks set with Michael Kempney back with John Carlson. We touched on that in our last episode. And that is obviously the same top pairing that won the Stanley Cup for the Caps in 2018. So that's looking good. And then Brendan Dillon with Dmitry Orlov. So it comes down to a choice between Nick Jensen, Radko Gudas, and Jonas Siegenthaler for the bottom pairing. So that is a pretty good problem to have if you are Todd Reardon. Obviously, if you're in a matchup where you want a little bit of extra muscle in the lineup, then you're probably going to go with Radko Gudas for one of those spots. Jonas Siegenthaler is a great penalty killer. Nick Jensen is a great skater. So, it'll all probably come down to not only who's playing the best, but also who the Caps are playing against and what the game plan is. All 3 of these guys are really good players, obviously, and they all have areas where they really excel. So in any case, Todd Reardon has 3 really good options there to choose from. And up front, one of the interesting developments from training camp was that while the players in the top 6 have remained the same, Todd Reardon did switch up the line combinations. And what he's done is he has reunited the exact line combinations that won the Cup for the Caps in 2018. So he's got the Stanley Cup winning top line of Alex Ovechkin, Evgeny Kuznetsov, and Tom Wilson back together. And he's also got the Stanley Cup winning second line of Jakob Vrana, Nicholas Backstrom, and TJ Oshie back together as well. Now, if for any reason, it's not bringing the same magic that it did back in 2018, then Reardon can always go back to the old reliable and put Ovechkin and Backstrom back together. But for now, to start, I like this a lot, and maybe this will give Kuznetsov the spark that he needs in order to recapture the magic that he had during the 2018 playoffs, when he led all NHL players in postseason scoring with a ridiculous 32 points, 12 of those being goals as well, in 24 Stanley Cup playoff games, playing alongside of his countryman Alex Ovechkin. So Kuzi, he also posted a plus 12 rating through 24 games in those playoffs. So that's the Evgeny Kuznetsov that the Capitals need in the postseason, right? If they want to win their second Stanley Cup in 3 years. When Kuzi's playing at that level, he makes the Capitals virtually unbeatable, really, with all of the other high-end talent that they already have. So it's really too much for any team to handle, as we saw in 2018. So it's a big question heading into the playoffs. Which Evgeny Kuznetsov, which version of him are the Caps going to get? And that, in my opinion, is going to make a huge difference to how far they can go in these playoffs. So another thing that I have touched on before, which you could really notice during training camp here, is that forward Daniel Sprong, I said that we were going to talk about him a little bit more later in this episode, so here it is. Daniel Sprong, he looks like he could be a really, really underrated pickup for the Caps. You'll remember that they got Sprong from the Anaheim Ducks in exchange for defenseman Christian Juice just before this year's trade deadline, in a trade which I think was a really good one for both teams. And like I said, I touched on it before, but Sprong is a really, really good young player. He just had his 23rd birthday back in March. When he was with the Pittsburgh Penguins organization, he's talented enough that he actually spent some time on Sidney Crosby's wing. And more recently with the Anaheim Ducks, he scored 14 goals in just 47 games played. So that would put him on pace for roughly 25 goals over a full season. So I like this pickup for the Caps right from the get-go. And the Caps have made a habit really out of taking players with a lot of talent and a lot of potential who just haven't really panned out in other organizations, haven't reached their potential. Such as, a Brett Connolly, a Devontae Smith-Pelly, even a Lars Eller could be put into that category as well. And they have a habit of taking these guys and turning them into the best versions of themselves, turning them into very productive players. So I think that we could definitely see the same thing happen here with Daniel Sprong. And in fact, I think that we should even maybe expect it to happen. As, like I said, the Caps' entire organization, really, they've kind of made a habit out of that over the last several years. So throughout training camp as well, Sprong, he looked really, really strong. He's fast. He's got great hands. He's a smart player with a knack for scoring goals. And he was certainly scoring a lot of goals during training camp, by the way, including during the scrimmages that the Caps played. So the coaching staff and many members of the media as well pointed to Sprong as one of the standout performers at training camp. So that's a very good sign. So I think that Sprong, he's going to be a black ace who the Caps are extremely happy to have as we head into the Stanley Cup playoffs here. And now I told you that we are going to have a little bit of a Capitals Hurricanes preview for you. Even though it is just an exhibition game, and so it should be taken with a grain of salt. It'll be more about warming back up to the competitive nature of playing an actual game again, more than anything else. But still, there will be some things that we can take from it, and so there are some things that we can preview for you as well. So first of all, we know, because we've been informed by Todd Reardon, that Braden Holtby is going to play 2 periods of the exhibition game against Carolina. So the other period will be played by either Phoenix Copley or Vitek Vanacek. Now, Reardon said that he and his coaching staff had not yet decided which one of them it will be, but whoever they choose, it is probably safe to say that will give us some indication of who they view as being the first in line to be Holtby's backup through the playoffs, now that we know that Ilya Samsonov is unable to join the team due to injury. So this is certainly something to keep an eye on. And see, I told you an exhibition game can have some intrigue. You just have to look hard enough. And let's be honest, none of us have watched an actual live NHL hockey game in over 4 months now. So these exhibition games are probably going to be the most watched exhibition games of all time. Guaranteed. I know for me they will be. So anyways, offensively, we know that the Caps finished second in the entire NHL this season in terms of scoring. The Hurricanes finished just outside of the top 10. They were 11th in the NHL in scoring, so the Caps have a definite edge on offense. Defensively, however, the Canes were the better team. They finished 12th in the NHL in goals against per game, while the Caps finished 18th in the same category, so the Canes get the edge on defense. And in goal, this is just one single game, and it is an exhibition game. And Braden Holtby is only playing 2 of 3 periods at that. So, I honestly don't think that there's much of a point to even break down the goaltending matchup at this point. But I will say that, in any one game, do or die scenario, I'd always take Braden Holtby over Peter Mrazek. But alas, this is not a do or die scenario. It's an exhibition game. But fuck it, I'll take Braden Holtby anyways. And we will just hope that Copley or Vanacek or whoever's playing the third of the 3 periods holds it together enough for the Caps to get the win. But like I said, this game will be more about how the Caps are playing, more so than it's about the result. Of course, a win always feels nice in any scenario and under any circumstances, but it's more important right now how they're playing. This team is confident, and that isn't going to be changed if they lose an exhibition game to the Carolina Hurricanes. So what I want to see, even more than a win, is I want to see them treating it like a real game, playing hard and playing well, get back up to game speed again. It is also going to be fun to watch some of the games within the game, if you will. The Hurricanes and their fans seem to really not like the Capitals. Well, the Capitals and their fans seem to really not give two fucks about the Hurricanes. So it will be fun to watch a guy like Tom Wilson laughing in the faces of the Hurricanes as they try to get under his skin. The Capitals will be in the Stanley Cup playoffs a few weeks from now. The Hurricanes might want to concern themselves with getting in first before they start concerning themselves with a team like the Capitals. The Hurricanes, of course, will have to beat the New York Rangers in a best-of-5 qualifying round series if they wish to be a part of the Stanley Cup playoffs. So I have gone on record picking the Rangers to win that series. So there's actually a lot of these qualifying round matchups in which I like the underdog for the win. It should be a real exciting couple of weeks, especially for those of us who are fans of a top 4 team. And therefore, we get to sit there and watch anxiety-free as our already Stanley Cup playoffs bound team plays a trio of round-robin games that really don't mean much when you really look at it. So that will be nice for us. It's nice to kick back with a beer while fans of rival teams are biting their fingernails off with stress and banging their heads against the wall over every missed play. So we get a couple of extra weeks before we're in that boat. But anyways, for this exhibition game, I look forward to another 60 minutes of the Caps drilling guys through the boards. I've really missed that. I look forward to Rod Brind'Amour whining about every clean hit that happens. And maybe Alex Ovechkin knocking another guy out, out cold, Mike Tyson style. Maybe this time he'll even knock out Rod Brind'Amour. That would really be something to see. Brind'Amour certainly seems to still think and act as if he's a player. He doesn't conduct himself like a coach. It actually kind of reminds me of like that weird, 40-something guy who still hangs around with high school kids and goes to all of their parties. Like the dad who has it in his head that all of his teenagers' friends are his friends, right? Like Amy Poehler in Mean Girls. I'm not a regular mom, I'm a cool mom. That's Rod Brind'Amour. But anyways, that's all we've got for you for now, Caps fans. Please feel free to send us your comments, any questions that you want answered during our next episode. We will be back next week, of course, with the Caps having played a couple of actual hockey games at that point, so we will surely have a lot more to talk about by then. And don't forget to subscribe to our podcast if you haven't done so already. We are on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, on Google Podcasts, on iHeartRadio, on Stitcher, on TuneIn, on Podcast Addict. So basically anywhere and everywhere that you would get your podcasts from, we are on there. So subscribe, share us with your friends and with your family and with any fellow Caps fans or hockey fans in general. We're going to have a lot of great stuff coming up throughout the playoffs. And so we want to have as many people on board as possible. And thanks again to all those who tuned in today. Until next time, stay classy, stay healthy, stay safe. Wear a fucking mask, for fuck's sake. Looking at you, United States. And as always, babes, let's go Caps.